Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RealClearPolitics Takeaway for Thursday, June 3rd. I'm Tom Bevan, co-founder and president of RealClearPolitics.
And I'm Carl Cannon, Washington Bureau Chief for RCP, although I'm not in Washington this morning. I'm in Santa Barbara, California, because today, June 3rd, is my father's birthday, and I'm out here visiting him.
Carl?
Yes, sir.
Let's talk. Well, first of all, happy birthday to your dad, our West Coast Bureau Chief, Luke Cannon. Still going strong. How old is he this year?
88, Tom.
88. Fantastic. I want to talk about the revelation about Dr. Fauci's emails, which came out yesterday, has generated a whole lot of commentary about what those emails in fact reveal. You've been a defender of Fauci. We've talked about him numerous times. He's come under criticism, but you've always defended him as being sort of an honorable public servant, Carl. Did anything that you read about those emails, including the fact that he had received emails from folks warning him or talking to him about the fact that this virus may have been engineered and could have possibly been part of a lab leak, as the theory goes? Any of those things disturb you, or did you think that Fauci was fully on the up and up?
Hey, Tom. Tony Fauci is a loyal and competent public servant. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And nothing you saw in these emails changed your thought about that?
Well, I haven't gone through all of them. I've been reading about them. I have found from the beginning, Tom, as you know, the dismissal by the establishment, the medical establishment, and the media establishment that of the most likely source of this pandemic, the Wuhan virology lab, the dismissal. I've found that troubling, and I kind of wish I would have written about it. I've talked about it on this podcast before, but that always seemed like the most obvious thing, and to get caught up in political correctness and domestic politics, where somehow if you point that this came from China, that it came from a city called Wuhan, that it was in the vicinity of where they're experimenting on coronaviruses, somehow that made you a racist. I have found that troubling all along. And, Tony Fauci was sort of went along with that, although that wasn't really his thing. His thing was trying to tell Americans how to withstand this onslaught. I don't think he played a key role in that. And that seems kind of tangential, both to these emails and to his role. But I don't defend anybody who has been dismissive of this theory. I think our job as journalists especially is to search for truth, and supposedly scientists too. And that's what they should have been doing.
Well, to that point, Carl, one of the things that brought up, and there's an article on Real Clear Politics this morning from Kelly Sadler of the Washington Times, which made me think about hydroxychloroquine. Another example of a situation where once Donald Trump mentioned that name and promoted it as a possible remedy for COVID in certain circumstances, it was roundly criticized and dismissed by the press, including Dr. Fauci. There was a Lancet study that was published that got a lot of publicity, which was later retracted. And I just went back through some of the links that we ran on our site, Carl, and we saw in other places the media folks saying, dismissing hydroxychloroquine. When Trump said that he actually had started taking hydroxychloroquine, there was another round. Nancy Pelosi was on TV saying he's morbidly obese, he shouldn't be taking this, it's going to kill him, yada, yada, yada. Similar pattern here, Carl. There was evidence at the time that suggested that hydroxychloroquine actually could have some effects, positive effects in dealing with the virus. But again, there was this reaction by public health officials, by the media, by the Democrats, to dismiss it outright. And I can't help but think that may have been in part, if not in large part, because of the fact that Donald Trump was the one suggesting that it might be beneficial. And as soon as he did that, the race was on.
I agree with you, Tom. And I'll remind you, and I'll remind our listeners that we had a story. I edited it myself painstakingly by Stephen Hatfield about that drug. And the original studies were dismissing it, were really junk science. And yeah, as you pointed out, one of them was retracted. The others were the one done a review of VA records at the Veterans Administration was not very well done because it only looked at people who were in the last stages, critically ill from COVID. And the idea about hydroxychloroquine was that if you administered it early in the infection, or maybe even as a prophylactic, that it would help. We still don't know, but you're right. It was dismissed because Trump mentioned it. Now, he was all over the map, and he sort of made, he spoke in such grandiose and unscientific terms, it was easy for people to criticize him. But we had another pandemic simultaneous with coronavirus, in my opinion, and it was Trump derangement syndrome, and it's real, and it's also dangerous.
Yeah, well, Dr. Fauci was one of the folks who sort of poo-pooed the idea of hydroxychloroquine as having any positive effects. And I just wonder if we're going to see more on that from him as well.
Well, this was a troubling, to broaden the discussion just a little bit, Tom, this was a troubling thing when this virus started killing massive numbers of people here and around the world. The treatments, we didn't know how to treat it. And the treatments have gotten better, but still people go in the ICU. That's a grim thing. And, we're not over this. I've been vaccinated. You have, but, half the country hasn't been, and we're still losing 335 people a day. And that's still the challenge, is when people get this disease, can medical science cure them, fix them, get them better? And to take drugs off the table because a politician you don't like mention it seemed to me really the most unscientific approach.
Last question, Carl. Do you think, I mean, will we ever find out what actually happened, how this started? Will the Chinese ever participate? I mean, I do think it is important because, this is someone, I read this recently and it really hit me, is that this is not just a virus that's going to come and go. This is something that's probably going to be with us year in and year out now. Right? We will have to be vaccinated for it on a yearly basis, most likely. And it'll become just like the flu, and we will manage it. We will still lose people to it, but people are going to fall sick from it every year. People are going to die from it every year. And it will be, something that is going to live with us for a long time, if not forever. And that, when you put it in those terms, I mean, if it was negligence on behalf of a country that then covered it up, I mean, the ramifications for this, in my opinion, are huge. But I don't know that we'll ever ultimately find out what happened if the Chinese aren't going to participate. And it's probably in their national interest not to.
Well, I don't know. Maybe their short-term national interests. I think it's in the interest of all mankind to know where this came from and how. Tom, this isn't the perfect storm. This isn't the perfect viral storm. The perfect viral storm is a disease that's communicated as easily as coronavirus and as deadly as Ebola. And, we haven't seen the last of these viruses. It's pretty obvious. I'd like to know your view of this, but it's pretty obvious to me. We need to know as much as we can possibly know. If this was transmitted from animals to humans, that's pretty scary. If it was caused in a lab and the world's largest country and another superpower besides the United States has been lying about it all along, that's pretty scary too. It'd be nice to know. I don't know whether.
Not to mention if it was the result of gain of function research, meaning scientists actually took a virus and made it more communicative and more lethal, and then it escaped. I mean, that's obviously would be, and especially if the United States somehow participated in that through grants and other things, and we were somehow complicit in that.
Your tax dollars at work, Tom.
I mean, seriously, this is a big deal. We got to get to the bottom of it. I hope we do, but I'm skeptical. As always, you know me, I'm Mr. Skepticism. So,
well, we don't call you Eeyore around the Real Clear Politics offices for nothing.
All right. And on that note, we will leave it there. I'm Tom Bevan, co-founder and president of Real Clear Politics.
And I'm Carl Cannon, Washington Bureau Chief. And be sure and join us tomorrow, Friday, for our extended podcast. It's audio only. Until then, be safe.